Hi.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. We're so glad to see you all again. Today, we're going to be introducing ourselves in the chat. And to get into breakout rooms later, we want you to select a grade level or group to be in. So if you go and find your picture, there's 3 dots next to the mute that will pop up. You're going to please rename yourself so that you can have your full name and then the breakout room you'd like. So I'll be in the main room, so Megan Kaplinski, main room. Go ahead and select between TK3, 4 to 5, 6 to 8 by changing your name, and we will be able to break out accordingly later on.
I'll be starting those invites soon, so you'll see the invite box for your breakout room, but you won't need to click the open that breakout room until we're ready for that.
So I see someone said, miss the direction. We're all renaming ourselves. I noticed that when I renamed myself, now I can't see my grade level. Shannon, can you see it though? I might need to shorten my name.
I see your name and then I see main after your name. So it's close. I can see
it works for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, Renee. Earlier it worked, but then. So welcome everybody. Introduce yourself in the chat and please do change your name by going to your image in the side and you'll see 3 little dots next to mute. And that's where you can rename yourself to select a breakout room.
Megan, it's so funny. I actually taught both 4th and 5th grade. So this Renee 4th and 5th grade, I'm having like flashbacks.
Absolutely.
No, I loved it.
Hello everyone, Yadira Ariano here. So nice to see everybody.
Hey, how you doing? So we can go ahead and get started on the next slide while everyone is figuring out the rename selection. So, hi, I'm Megan Kaplinski. I am the secretary for the organization ACTEP, and I teach at Long Beach City College in the teacher prep program. It's so nice to see everyone here today. We started out in the most recent meetings getting ideas from all of you, which have really helped to shape what we're going to do today. So in our July 9th second community of practice meeting, we talked about and modeled some really great ways that fieldwork can take shape in the fall. And then on our Fieldwork Friday on the 17th, we really started to formulate ideas based off of all of your input. And so today we get to launch a Canvas Commons project, which is what you're renaming yourself so that we can identify your breakout room. So more to come on that soon, but basically it's a great opportunity for us to crowdsource some really great alternative fieldwork opportunities for our education students. We're going to have Renee Marshall share some CSU updates with Kathleen White and talk about school reopening plans in the state. We're going to have an awesome app demonstration by Mike Mansfield by popular demand from our Fieldwork Friday for Pear Deck, so we can get some ed tech up in the house. And then we'll go dive deep into the Canvas Commons project where we can crowdsource those videos and alternatives for the fieldwork opportunities, which we'll focus on in our breakout room. And then we'll close with some really important dates for you to save for another Fieldwork Friday and for other things that are coming up with ACTEP, things like that. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you mind going over the renaming one more time for people who've just joined?
Yes.
We need clarification. Awesome.
Yes, thank you. So what we're doing right now is preparing so that Shannon can put you into a breakout room. You may see a lot of names now have numbers next to them or the main room. So what you're going to do is you're going to select a grade level, TK3, 4 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, or the main room. And the main room is going to cover kind of like resources for the faculty perspective to manage the classroom. And the long story short is you're selecting that, but you can actually assist in any group Later, we'll tell you how. So go to the 3 dots next to your name. When you see your image, it'll be next to the mute button, and then click and select rename. Put those numbers next to your name. Thank you. I'll hand it off to Renee, and I'll repeat those directions now in the chat.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. I'm pinning you for some reason, Megan, and the regular screen is not up for me, so sorry about that. But really excited to share with you some CSU updates. The biggest one I want to share to everybody right now is next Friday, we need your attention. We are incredibly grateful that Vice Chancellor Marquita is going to be participating in a Fieldwork Friday with anybody who's interested. It's going to be happening next Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. We highly suggest that if you have any questions or any specifics that we would like Marquita to touch upon within this, if you could let anybody on our team know ahead of time, we'll make sure to get the message across to her. But we are incredibly excited for this, and we hope that you will join us for that opportunity. And I know Kathleen is going to talk about something really exciting that's also coming up from ACTEP. So I'm going to mute myself for a minute while Kathleen comes on.
Okay, so 2 things. Let me talk about the CTC announcement first, and then actually Megan and I can co-announce the ACTEP one. So just to clarify, Marquita Grenoshire is from CSU. She's a vice chancellor from the CSU system. And on August 5th to 7th, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, CTC, will be featuring a number of recommendations on, they labeled the highlight category, strengthening and adapting education preparation for virtual teaching and learning issues and options for 2021. I called out a specific set of recommendations that have to do with the early childhood permit. And so they've been seeking input from the field. Take a look at it if you do offer or support your students to get the early childhood permit. There are some adaptations and some features that will be available this year around applications and submissions that many of your students, I think, will find helpful during this distance learning period. Also, it's a very long meeting, so 5th, 6th, 7th, feel free to call in. And there are numerous K-12 changes and adaptations also. Look under 4A, and you'll see some of the CTC items that will be discussed. They will take input and public comment. So follow the directions in order to do that if you have strong feelings about supporting any of those suggestions or suggesting additional. And then Megan, maybe later we can talk about the ACTEP convening, but we do have a save the date for ACTEP.
Yes, next slide.
Oh, next slide. Okay, thank you. Next slide.
Can I quickly say something?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I do want to just mention that within this, within the CTC agenda on the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, for this 4A, this specific action item, I just want everyone to know that CTC reached out to TPP in order to form the group that made the provisions related to the ECE permit. And so I just wanted to share that with our group because it's just such a pivotal moment when we're collaborating across systems and across agencies. And for CTC to perceive TPP as that much of an asset to help develop that group, it was such an honor. And so both Kathleen and I were able to serve on that committee. Plus we brought in other key colleagues from early childhood throughout the state, throughout our system, and throughout other systems in order to come together for these recommendations. We also reached out as far as possible in the field through survey to get input from everybody as much as we possibly can. And I want to give a big shout out right now. In that document, in that agenda, they specifically mention the early childhood education community of practice as being one of the places that they came to get information about what the field is asking for and what the field needs. And so we're always striving to be agents of change, and a lot of us are devoting many hours this summer to advocacy efforts related to early childhood and education. And I just want to say hats off to everybody that's involved. We're making a difference, and there's nothing when we get to impact at the statewide level for all of our future teachers in California. So thank you so much to Kathleen, and thank you to everybody who is involved in that. And please check out the CTC meeting next week to see policy go into action. Just know that we all made an impact.
Right. Thank you, Renee. And also to announce that Kate Williams-Brown, who is one of our community college peers at Skyline College, is seated on the commission's board. And so she's our I guess, strongest ally in that she is faculty from a community college, but she's one voice. And so the more we can do to both speak up at the meetings, provide public comment, supports her work because, you know, again, she's one voice on a very heavily four-year college and university board. So, okay, next slide.
I do think voice makes a difference also, Kathleen. I love that you said that because, like, for instance, we have to speak up. I received an email earlier this summer about a survey from the commission, and the community colleges were not involved. And instead of like sending it to like somebody I knew in the commission, I just wrote back to the person who sent the survey and I said, hey, where are community colleges? Like, we're involved in teacher preparation significantly, and we want to be included. And instantly CTC, they contacted me. We worked on revising the survey with a whole team of people in order to make sure community colleges were included. And it was just a matter of saying, hey, can we be invited to the table? And so if you see something that seems off and you want to advocate, if you don't feel comfortable, reach out to us. I think at this point, all of us are getting very comfortable using our voices, but at the same time, if we can be of support to any advocacy that you are doing, please let us know. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Megan, really quickly, could you please make me the host?
Yes, I
Sorry.
look for how to do that.
Megan and I see Colleen McKinley on this call, and I'm just trying to scan the participants.
I thought I saw Janice.
Okay, so, and Janice Perry, who's our president. So we have 4 ACTEP board members on this call. Shout out to ACTEP, Association of California Community College Teacher Education Programs. We'll be doing a webinar on August 27th, so another save the date. You can read the content, ADT Elementary Teacher Ed. Please save the date. More information will be going out. ACTEP will also be doing a professional development day in, I believe, October or November, date to be determined. So Megan, if you want to add anything?
Yes, I would like to add that if you're a member of ACTEP, or if your college, your community college, has the ADT Elementary Teacher Ed or the CID course Education 200, then you're going to be invited to register. However, we know that there's a lot of you that may wish to make sure you're on that list, so you can put your name in the chat at this time with your email address, and we'll be sure that you can be added. So again, this is focused on the Education 20 CID class and the ADT, as well as ACTEP members. It is free, it is open, so please add your email, and then we can make sure you get the registration link.
And you know, we are doing a shelter in place. We are doing virtual learning, but we really want to keep all of you busy. So don't think that you have too much free time. We've got a lot of things planned. We had many things planned over the summer, and we hope you continue to learn and be a community of practice with us all in the fall. So we don't want you to have any downtime or be bored in your homes.
Megan, this is Janice Perry. Could I add something?
Please do.
Oh, sorry, I'm on vacation, so I hope my picture's not showing, but if it is.
Your picture is showing, Janice, but you look lovely.
I'm looking at the ocean, so I feel happy. I did want to just be real clear about the convening in November. It's November 13th for the ACTEP convening, and it would be like a full day 9 to 2 virtual conference and business meeting for ACTEP. So I just wanted to add a little more information on that. And then the August 27th event will be CSU professors and administrators giving us their models and strategies for what they'll do for their field experience based on what comes out from the CTC. So I think it's important for us to hear from those faculty from the campuses that our classes articulate to, that we're concerned about. So that's why ACTEP's doing that with the university professors. So please give us your name, and others will be receiving this invitation that are members already, or campuses that have the ADT and the education. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Excuse me, I was wondering, Janice, is there a cost to attend it?
No,
No.
not the webinar on the 27th.
Okay.
But we're still discussing how we'll handle the virtual conference in November.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, thanks everybody. I see a lot of emails in the chat, so just to not confuse it later, please add your email to the chat now if you would like to ensure that you're getting the webinar from ACTEP registration link sent to you. And we can go to the next slide. Thank you so much.
Megan, I also have heard many new participants enter. So if you're just entering, please go to the 3 dots on your picture and add the group that you would like to attend in the breakout session to your name.
Okay, Renee, are you and I doing this one?
Yes, and my first instinct is to be like, it's a mess, but of course I'll be optimistic. No,
Yeah.
Things are totally moving still, and I think that's an essential piece that we need to know. I know, like, my own children are starting school on August 11th, and we are getting emails almost daily of things that are changing and things that are moving. Kath is going to talk about some very specific things that have come out in terms of the reopening plan, but one of the things I know a lot of us that are on the call right now have been following the reopening plans extensively. Please make sure you're tuned into Governor Newsom for his daily updates, Tony Thurmond and Department of Education for his almost daily updates as well. One thing I do want to note, though, that has caused a lot of stir recently is the waiver opportunity that came out through Governor Newsom. And so if you're not aware of this, it's something you need to Google and check out immediately. There is an opportunity for waivers, and some people are thinking that this is like this open door, all sorts of groups can come in. And I believe, and Kath, please speak if, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the waivers were truly created with this idea that specialized groups of children and or specialized areas of the state are going to be, we have to do waivers for certain groups and certain areas, but then there's other areas where just because some parents want their kids to be face-to-face doesn't mean they're going to qualify for a waiver. And a lot of people are believing that to be the case. So again, lots of disequilibrium, but we're getting consistent messages coming from CDE and coming from Governor Newsom as they know it. Everything is so fresh and so alive and happening in the moment that you really need to be watching daily. But I will say Department of Education has continued to put out stellar webinars. They're trying to be incredibly inclusive and meeting the needs of the field, in addition to meeting the needs of all the parents and what the parents are looking for. And so if at any point we feel like there's gaps or something that's needed, we can reach out to our CDE colleagues or our colleagues at, in Newsom's office and ask for support. But Kathleen, would you share the rest of the update on the school's reopening?
Sure, and the slide's already dated. Just a few, you can go stay at the school reopening plans, but just in 5 days it's been dated. We now have more counties on the watch list. And so the governor laid out the conditions under which schools could open. So the majority of California students will be remote learning. I think most of you know that. And the conditions under which a school can go to in-person learning have also been laid out. Now that we have more counties on the watch list, it's the vast majority of public school children in California will be starting in distance ed. The waiver was presented, in my view, primarily for smaller schools, primarily for areas of the state where there might be a county on watch, but the county is so vast that there might be a school that's 200 miles away that serves 50 children, and there have been no cases in that one community. So, and it's also open for private schools, charter schools, et cetera, to waive these distance ed requirements. I have to say though that if you read through the waiver, the public health department has to sign off. So it's not going to happen in the counties that have active cases or have been identified as being problematic. And I don't know how it can happen in a populated county unless you might have a school that only serves 10 to 20 children. And it's a very unique cluster of schools, and that might, be waived. I really don't know. We'll have to look at who gets the waiver. Also, there was an announcement that $5.3 billion have been made available to districts to help with distance ed and reopening. That's a very large pot of money, but we'll see how far that goes in California. So just, this slide is 5 days old, and it's old now, but I think we can pretty much count on the fact that we'll be in distance ed, and the conditions under which we go back to distance ed if we do hybrid opening are very stringent. One case, it seems like we're going to be back and forth and moving from distance ed to a hybrid in person, I would say for a long time. I just, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. One of our counties is going on watch soon again. San Mateo County is being watched. Most of our other counties are on the list. So I just can't imagine that this is not going to continue, most certainly through fall. So stay tuned and just be aware that there's just things we're not going to know. We have to be able to move quickly. So.
Rosemary made a very good point in the box too, saying it's extremely political right now. She said in her county, but I think a lot of us are feeling it. And so it's hard to stay neutral, but at the same time, we need to do what's best for our teachers, for our students, and for families. So it's a tricky time for sure. It's important that people have their voices heard, but at the same time, sometimes we need to set strict parameters in order to make sure that things are safe. And I agree with Kathleen that this is going to last a while. I was actually, I just received a contract this morning, or a request for a contract to lead a workshop in next March, and they are going to do all of their workshops virtually. So they're already planning mid-spring remote stuff. So we'll see how everything goes, right?
Yeah. Can I add one other thing that's emerging? So for faculty, I don't know how many of you are getting swamped with emails, but we're in the San Francisco Bay Area, we're getting lots of requests for our students, our early childhood students, and our future teacher students to lead pandemic pods. And so if you're not in the pandemic pod movement, there's actually Facebook groups called the Pandemic Pod. Go take a look. And we've got parents organizing small pods of students, and they're hiring, now, granted, it's not, there's an equity issue around who can hire, and there's lots of other things, but some parents are organizing to hire students to either lead, especially in elementary school, pandemic pods, lead the distance ed instruction, provide supervision, and rotate from houses a small group of children. So it's kind of a growing job market. I have to say I have mixed feelings, but for many of our students that have been laid off from their other jobs, serving children, they seem very interested. So we're trying to think of a way to connect these pandemic pod parents with students that have been laid off and really want to work with children. And thank you. I do see that, yes, mitigating equity issues. There have been some efforts to try to provide supervision. Even in San Francisco, they're opening up small community centers to serve children who are unsupervised. But this, we're at a period where equity and who can do what is front and center to public education right now. But take a look at the pandemic pod issue. They are doing a lot of hiring. I'm not asking about taking a stand on it, but for our students, who have been laid off, it might be better than a retail job if they really need to work and they want to work with children. So that's all.
I do think Alice has a great point in the chat too. She said the jobs I've seen advertised are really more appropriate for teachers, not students. They're asking for extensive experience, nearly full-time. I've seen that also. Another thing I've seen is kind of an in-between, and I'm not sure how many other groups will see this, but I have a feeling it'll be kind of across the state. In my area, one of our local elementary districts is subsidizing 1,100 spots in different childcare programs in order to make sure that their students are going to have their needs met during the day. It's a very low income district, so I really wish it was actually a lot more than 1,100 spots, honestly. But right now, we're working with Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, and Sunshine After School Program. They're coming to us saying, hey, we need some people. We want some qualified people. Any chance we can talk to your future teachers? The expectation, thank goodness, is not as high as being like a credential teacher for these students or for these children, but it is kind of like a nice in-between. So if you are in a community that's doing that, please reach out to those agencies and try to do some marketing with your students, because it'll be relevant for our students, but also the children in our community will get quality care, which is what we're looking for. We want people who love to work with children and families to be in these positions during distance learning. We've got to keep morale up, and we need to lead the way with a positive attitude going into fall within our community. So please make sure you get out there and say good things about how exciting this opportunity is going to be.
This is a good place where after school programs have stepped up in our area. Some of our, Renee mentioned YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, some of our after school programs have pivoted to more of a summer schedule in the fall, and are providing some supervision for children who don't have either pod options or are unsupervised. So we have just a lot of change in the field right now. And the bottom line is our students who have preparation in child development and teacher education in just the courses that we've been providing are well positioned to meet this need. It's kind of Wild West, but communities are solving problems. So before we get into the actual content of the courses, I want to switch to considerations for remote fieldwork courses. Many of you probably know this. For me, it was kind of a new thing to think about, because many of our fieldwork courses have always been in person. We've never, offered remote before. So it's just a whole way of thinking. So I just put a list together for any of you that are in the situation that some of our faculty are in, where we were used to in person. We always had screening requirements, and there was some discussion around, well, do we need to screen if folks are really online? And I would suggest that you do continue your screening, your TB testing, your fingerprinting, your criminal record background check. Even though it's remote learning, the screening is critical. Number one, if you do go to in person quickly, you have that done, but also you want to identify red flags that could come up with online learning also. So continue your screening. We have our students sign a contract that says, what screening they know they need to do, and that they haven't had a criminal background, et cetera. And I would still be that cautious, even with remote learning. Clarify how the student's going to be supervised online. If a student's expected to interact with children as a group, who's going to observe their interactions? Or if, some schools are sending our students into tutoring situations, which might mean they're leading breakouts or small groups, or even one-on-one situations. So I think you have to know what types of situations your students will be used for. And clearly, there is a gray area around the requirement that students be supervised by a classroom teacher. The classroom teacher needs to know, but it's so the area is so gray when it comes to remote learning. Even if they're in a breakout room or doing, you know, one-on-one clarification, the classroom teacher may not actually be there. So I think you have to do some discussion with your students up front around Child Internet Safety Act, what that contains, what is appropriate in terms of online just language and topics appropriate to the age. There's also concern that once we're online, our students' social media accounts and names are then visible to you know, younger students. And well, I'm not going to tell you the I had a student with a very interesting email name, you know, younger students can search around for their classroom aide, their tutor, the person that's helping their classroom. And you want to have some continuity in the professionalism, I guess is what I'm trying to say, between what your student presents when they're in their classroom remotely and what's on their social media account. So lots of things become more visible, and young students are very adept at finding people and at communicating and at reaching out. So I think you just have to think about social media safety, internet safety, and encouraging your students to model professionalism, knowing that they're going to be in many ways more exposed online than they are when they're in a classroom, and there isn't that ability to really learn more about them. Really clarify prohibited behaviors, sharing pictures, sharing work from students with their names on it, include policies on reporting, and then what kinds of behaviors would constitute removal from class. We do have a list, for instance, at our college of things that include if the classroom teacher or principal says you're not, you know, going to be able to stay in the school, you are removed. But it's a little trickier when you're doing online and distance ed to really know how you're going to monitor that. So I've got some things listed here on this slide. You'll all have copies for these links. And there is a great article on PACE just came out with an article on supporting learning. And this is from the teacher's perspective. So you might want to take a look at some of those key points to consider. Again, supervision, social media, transparency, professionalism, and even things like dress and, you know, is it appropriate to have a huge sandwich when you're talking, you know, to the student? Is it appropriate to, you know, have pictures in the background of, you know, whatever. So you're basically going into children's homes and you're going into the student's home. So you have to consider the whole environment. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we jump in with Michael sharing us our popular demand Pear Deck intro, I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't been checking the chat, the links to the articles and resources Kathleen shared in the CTC meetings in August are in the chat. So you can scroll back and open those links for future use. So Michael, I'll hand it off to you.
So I was very excited about this tool, and we had talked about it last time we met. I was looking at ways that we could present synchronously and asynchronously our material to our students and just kind of get that in-person interactive experience that we've just been missing. I don't know about you, but I feel starved for it when I'm looking at a Zoom board of just names or and nobody's responding back to me. So I found this tool very helpful, and I'm actually going to be sharing it with you right now. You know, I have been working on a couple of different iterations of it, and I decided to go with a more fun, playful one. Then I had a whole presentation about how the RICA was being changed and modified, and the history of it and stuff. I decided to keep it light. So just an interest in, I'm slowly disappearing in the green screen setting, but I'm going to ignore that. If you wouldn't mind opening up a different tab on your computer, you don't need a second device unless you want to do it that way, and going to joinpd.com. And then entering in our 5-digit ad code there. It's QRUZH. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly demo what I'm doing in my classes when I'm presenting to the class and talking and interacting with them. We got the choice to go either asynchronous or synchronous at our site, and I chose synchronous mostly because I was able to do this. So I wanted to share that with the group and give you ideas. And yeah, I'm not sure how many have used Pear Deck before, so I might be talking to a very experienced group. If so, I appreciate any advice that you want to add. You can see in the bottom corner, I have 19 people connected there. I can see who those individuals are. I can see who's missing and kind of message them and encourage them, but we're all professionals here. So if we're all right with me starting, we can add oh, look, everybody's rushing to jump in now that I said that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and begin. The code is going to be in the top right corner if anybody wants it, and you just go to joinpd.com. So, all right, here's my opening screen, and just like I'm giving a presentation normally, it's right there. But now the next slide, I'm actually asking you a question. I have been running out of shows on Netflix, and I am looking for recommendations. I always love to ask these questions because it gives me good ideas. What's your favorite TV show? So while I'm asking that, everybody's typing in their answers, and what I can do as the presenter is I can actually look at those responses myself, or I can share those responses with the group. And so we actually are watching them happen live as people are typing them in. World of Dance, Flash, It's Grease, really good. Grey's Anatomy. Oh, I miss Sherlock too. The Umbrella Academy, season 2 is coming out or came out, right? Office. I want to know what that game show. Oh, it's called Don't. Interesting, right? So I'm getting all these wonderful responses here, and as the presenter, I get these archived. So I have who said what, and I can go back and refer to it at another time. But the very cool thing about using Pear Deck is that when the presentation is over, it actually sends each participant their own individual unique copy of the presentation with everything that they typed and entered in attached. So if I have students that are saying, could I get a copy of their presentation, it automatically sends it to them with all of their responses and notes attached. So the reason I was doing this was because I wanted to share one of mine. It's an older one called Lie to Me. And it's really interesting premise because it's based on some truth. It's about an anthropologist who discovers that all human beings have 7 universal emotions or expressions, that it doesn't matter what language or what culture you belong to, everybody has the same expression. And if you can recognize that, you can actually almost kind of read individuals and what they're thinking. So these 7 universal expressions, I'm pretty sure you are aware of what they are, but just to kind of check and make sure, we're going to do a test that I call Are You a Human? Okay, and I'm going to show you a picture of these expressions and see if you can call out what they are or type them on the response. So let's take a look at our first expression and see if you can figure out. Yes? Oh, that was a quick one. And again, I can check the responses. Content, happy, 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 yes. Okay, absolutely. That's happy or joyfulness. Okay, contentment is a branch of happiness, so we'll accept that. Right? Okay, we'll do another one. Here we go. Yep, sad, sadness, sad. There we go. Very good. Okay. How about this one? I find myself mirroring the emotions too. Is anybody else doing that also? They're seeing it and they're just making the face as well. Right? Anger, good. Okay. How about this one? This is the face I make when I wake up in the middle of the night and I check my emails. There we go. Scared, fear, afraid. Excellent. Almost done. Surprise, good. I love this emotion. Yes, so this is disgust, which mortified me when I first learned that this was a universal expression, because this means that if I ever go to somebody's house and try their cooking, they're going to know how I feel, you know. So I can't make a face and be like, no, that means I really enjoyed it, you know, in my culture. It's a universal emotion, so everybody can read that. And this one is really interesting too, because this is the only emotion that is not bilateral, meaning it's only expressed on one side of the face. It's not done synchronously on both sides. Anybody guess on this one? Yes, skeptical, disappointments, and some disdain. Disdain, yes, that's absolutely it, actually. Believe it or not, disdain is a universal human emotion. So the thing that I found really interesting and kind of a unique takeaway from this entire experience is that although it's cool to know that we have 7 universal emotions and expressions in common across the globe, no matter where you go, you can just express your face and people will understand. That means that every other emotion needs to be taught to our kids. And that's such a huge focus now when we're going back into the classrooms, is that there's the social emotional learning element, and we need to be sensitive to some of these kids may not have learned empathy or caring, you know, or trust even. So, you know, these are all basic universal needs, and yet they need to be taught. And I thought that was just a fantastic kind of perspective when we're going into the semester ourselves in our classroom. So I would like to ask you to just drag your blue dot onto an emotion that you feel needs to be taught or discussed in the classroom. And the cool thing is that while everybody's dragging their dot, I get to see all the dots being dragged. Isn't that fun? And I can do this with charts, graphs, maps. We can have the screen split inside where one yes or no or true or false, and have students drag their dots to one side or the other. I can do polls very quickly using Pear Deck. I know we already have that ability to do that in Zoom, but it may be a little difficult to set up, especially if we are doing sort of on the fly teaching. Okay. Okay, I'm going to throw out this last little question. How do we want our students to feel about their education class after 2020? That's basically been the way that I've been planning this semester. Is I'm planning for the end product. How do they want to look back on this semester? This is a unique, historic moment in time. Are they going to come away with it saying, thank goodness I had that education class to kind of help? Or are they going to look back on it and say, wow, that was a mess? So some of the cool features, and we'll leave it here while people respond. Some of the cool features that I liked is at the very bottom of the screen, I can add a new prompt. So maybe I'm talking and somebody asks the question and I say, that's a really good question. Let's put it to the class. I don't have to close the presentation or end the presentation. I can just click here on new prompt and select many different options of the way that I want to ask the class or interact with the class. So it allows me to do very quick, spontaneous, formative assessments while I'm presenting. I can have material up there and talk about it. We can watch videos because it's a Google slide presentation. Everything you can do in a Google slide presentation, from embedding material, it's something you can do with the Pear Deck add-on as well. The interactivity is the thing that I really love about this. Okay, so do you want me to share responses or not? This was
Yes, but you also have a couple questions in the chat right now, Max. I can't believe I just called you Max.
You can call me Max. That's all right.
So, I was just gonna ask. Hi, Mike. I was just gonna ask what this is because I absolutely fell in love with the presentation and I love the format. It's so easy to track. What is this? Is this Crush?
This is actually the add-on that I'm using is called Pear Deck.
Oh.
Yes. And it's a free add-on that you can download in the Chrome store when you're in the Slides app. Slides web app. And you attach it. There is a premium feature that gives you just a few more options, but most, if not all, of the stuff that I've been sharing with you is in the free version.
Okay.
Of it.
And then, hi, Michael. I'm Yadira, and I think Renee was going to connect us. I'm going to be teaching education this semester, so I'm going to be picking your brain. And I'm sorry I keep asking so many questions, but I absolutely love this presentation.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, please pick my brain. I love it. My brain.
More like yank it off, but yeah.
That's fine.
So, Mike, there's a couple questions here. Does this work well with Canvas?
Yes, I actually, when I opened up my class, I started using it almost immediately when we made the initial transition to distance learning. It was one of those, I used to use it with workshops that I would do because it gave me the ability to interact with large groups while I was presenting to them in such a way that they could ask questions. For instance, everybody's responses are being saved, by the way, but I can, for instance, say something like, see, these are my options here. I can say question and say, okay, well, do you have any questions about what we were talking about just now? And people can now type their response to this question. It allows me to create these draggable things. How do you feel about this? You know, let's fill out a chart, a reflection, even these exit tickets of, you know, what are two things you learned? And I can do some customizable ones as well for these that work. Anyways, I started using this when we transitioned in. And so what I would do is in Canvas, I would put a link to Zoom. And then as students were adding themselves to the waiting room, I just started the Pear Deck presentation. So the first screen they saw was our class code for the Pear Deck presentation. Yeah, I welcomed them, like, you know, it wasn't just like a cold, like, here's our ad code sort of thing. But the first thing that I showed them or shared with them was the ad code. They all added on, and you can do this while you're on a Zoom call. So I'm presenting, but everybody's image or pictures are on the side of my screen. So I have kind of that picture-in-picture thing happening. I don't need two devices necessarily to do this, which is wonderful because as far as equity issues are concerned, some of us don't have two devices, and I want to be able to present to everyone fairly and equally. So this is a very strong tool that I use for that. Let's see, again, the takeaways. You can check the inbox when you did sign in through Google or whatever email address you used to get into the presentation. You left an email address. And so when I end this presentation, you're actually going to get your own copy of this presentation sent to that email with your answers and responses in there. So we can actually have a more thorough discussion, have students kind of like write their thoughts as they come up with them, and take notes on slides as we're writing them, and then they can get their own copy at the very end and not have to set anything down.
Mike, I've got a quick question for you. So you said that the students can get their version of what they submitted. as the faculty or as the teacher, are you able to also submit the whole class responses so everybody can see what everyone said?
I have the ability to send that to them if I want to. There are some elements where it becomes kind of in their best interest to not do that, because some students may share things that they don't necessarily want to share, or they might type
Totally.
that
I'm thinking like in a brainstorm or something like that
yeah.
activity. You know what I mean? Something that's a free flow activity where everybody wants their voice heard. It might be a good way, but I totally understand restrictions too. Also, there's a couple questions.
Sure.
As a student, how do I know my DOT is being registered?
So in the main presentation, I can actually look here. Hold on one moment. I've got to go to an actual question that I asked where there were responses. So I have the ability to look at, I can make, well, there's so many features I want to talk about. So I can open up a teacher dashboard that allows me to look at each student's individual answers. So I can see what each student is selecting or typing without them seeing this up on the screen. You know, I can see what they're saying without them seeing what they're saying. Another feature that we can do here is, let's say I present for the first part of this presentation, and I have a couple of questions or prompts that I want them to answer or respond to. I can turn on the student-paced version of this, and then they can progress through the presentation at their own pace. They still get a copy of it. I still get to see their answers and responses, but essentially it would be like, I'm teaching. Okay, now you go and do this work, and then we'll come back in the Zoom room and we'll talk about what you did and discuss. And it allows them to kind of progress at their own pace through questions without them waiting on the next slide to advance forward.
There's a few more questions in the chat, Mike.
Sure.
Are you able to show all responses to students while live?
Yes, I can.
Is the website, is the website accessible if I put an activity in my LMS?
Yes, it should be accessible because it's a Google Chrome extension.
Okay, I'm going to read all of them. Sorry, I hope that's cool. Do I need
No, go ahead. That's fine. I've got it.
click enter for my response to record?
What's that? I'm sorry?
Do I need to click enter for my response to record?
No, actually, your response is appearing in real time here. So I can see that somebody deleted their response, for instance. And then I don't know if somebody is actively, if somebody wants to try to type a response, it'll actually show it as it's being typed. So we can see that. You know, I have a grid layout here too, so we can look at multiple responses at once. You know, there we go, testing.
Nice.
See? So it gives the ability to kind of see the responses as they're happening real time. And, you know, for you to know that people are actively thinking or doing the activity. Because some just, maybe they got lost and they aren't engaging immediately, and that gives an idea or a clue that need a little bit more help.
There's another question also. Megan answered it, but I want to throw it out to you also just in case you have a different take on it. How is it different from PowerPoint with Pulls and Kahoot?
So I love PowerPoint. I used to use that primarily. What I found lacking was that there was kind of an inability to interact when it came to the polls. Kahoot, you need to sign in through another website in order to interact as well. This is self-contained within the presentation, so it's one login and you're good to go. I love Kahoot. I don't think I'm ever going to say goodbye to it really, because it just has a lot of gamified elements that really like engage the participants. But when it comes to presenting the material and actually interacting, I prefer this. Before we went remote and distance, the reason that I liked using Pear Deck primarily was it allowed me to present on the students' personal screens instead of just one big screen behind me. And if you got a bad seat because you showed up late or whatever, you weren't able to see that screen. It allowed me to present all the material on their own personal screens, and that gave them an added benefit. If there was something they really wanted to remember, they could actually take a screenshot while it was on their screen and kind of keep it and hold on to it. But I like that it turned whatever device they were participating in the presentation with into my screen that I was presenting on.
Mike, there's a question also. Can this platform be used in like a debate where you've got a for and against side where students are registering their comments as it's happening live?
Absolutely. You can actually have kind of like a split screen like this, and you can say, okay, you can type your meme on this side or that side and respond. You can have them pre-drawn too. I had an activity, and Renee, I think you know which activity I'm doing, where I had the students walk from one side of the room to the other. There was a strongly agree and disagree, the mobile debates, and for each topic. And I transitioned that online with Pear Deck by doing this, where I would have a line on the screen, and I would have the students move their position from one side to the other. And then I could see who moved to what side, so I could call on them and say, oh, you know, Renee, it looks like you said disagree. Would you mind speaking on that a little bit? And it allowed us to have a very nice interactive discussion, despite the fact that we're all on our computers at home.
Excellent. I love that activity, Mike. I'm thrilled to hear you're still doing that in class. Do students need to register to log onto this app for a class? And they're also asking if the website is accessible. There's also been a request for you to increase your volume, please.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part because
to increase your volume.
Oh, to decrease my volume?
Increase.
Increase. I'm sorry. Hold on. Is that better? I have a microphone here.
Totally.
Okay.
Students need to register to log on to this app for a class, and also is the website accessible?
Okay, so you do not need an account to participate with this of any kind, really. You don't even need a Google account. You just need an email address, and you're good. And because I'm presenting with Zoom, I'm putting it on your screen regardless, anyways. But you don't need a Pear Deck account in order to participate. For that. As far as the equity issues are concerned, it's what you put into it when it comes to planning and presenting, the same way that when you're putting together a presentation, you'd want to make sure that there was alternative text for images and things. And my green screen is making my eyes disappear. That was creepy. I'm sorry. Okay. So I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, that was great.
Great. Okay. Well, and then if that's
there's one
right
here that just popped up.
Sure.
How to assess students on their oral comprehension through Pear Deck.
On the oral comprehension. So if we're talking about speaking and listening skills, we can have them see, I don't really feel putting a spotlight in front of the group would necessarily be the most effective way of doing that. That would be more of an individual Zoom kind of thing. However, if I want to check to see if they're understanding and comprehending what we're talking about and discussing, I could just as easily ask a prompt and not share it with the class. So I can see their answers, but have their answers not visible to the rest of the class. So that way I can see who actually is comprehending and understanding and is not doing that.
Well, this has been wonderful, Mike. These are the exact type of resources that we're looking for. And we really appreciate you coming on and doing like a mini training today for us. One of the things that our communities of practice have really been trying to do from the very start is to be responsive. And so when people ask for something, we're trying to get it going right away. And so Pear Deck was something that people were of interest, wanted some more info on. So thank you so much, Mike, for that.
Sure, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, the early childhood community practice is going to be hosting a workshop soon, a coffee chat on everything you need to know about Google. And that was a request from me because I know that I'm not using it as effectively as I could. So just know that we're trying to be responsive, and if you have needs, let us know. Mike Mansfield, you are awesome as always. Thank you so much, Mike. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And we
Okay.
exciting to share. And Shannon, you're up next, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
So I'm getting most of you into breakout rooms, and as we get started, I'll start going that direction. We want to share a couple of things with you today that we're working on. We discussed was that our last meeting or was that our Friday conversation? It's been a while, guys. Sorry, lots happened since then. So it was that Friday meeting. So we discussed that we were working on creating a Canvas course that we're going to add to Commons to support the fieldwork for the education courses. So let me share with you what we've started so far. I know I shared a rough draft with you all before. So this is the course that we're working on, and it's going to have opportunity for both the education course with the 45 hours of observation and along with the 10 to 15 hour fieldwork course, depending on how your district has that set up. So as soon as that's our goal today, is to help add and support to these courses today. So what we have done so far is just created a very generic homepage with buttons for those resources. So Megan is going to be running the main room today with our miscellaneous resources. And this is kind of what we've broken out so far. We have some MOUs and agreements, handbooks, hour logs. If you have a log that you've created to help your students keep track of their hours, we're looking for different versions of that to help support our students in that area. We're going to create a movie list. So if there are movies and that's acceptable within your area, maybe they watch a movie and they do a reflection, answer questions, things like that. So we want to have some opportunity there. We've created, we're working on some virtual reflection assignments, so we can help boost that today. That would be a really great area. If you have some thoughts and ideas to share with Megan there today, that would be wonderful. Alternative fieldwork assignments, we have a variety of things that we've started building in this as well. Some workshop videos, Teach Los Angeles, Leah had sent that out, Martinez, and she did a great job there. So we've shared some of those. Some interviews with teachers and questions that they've been asked. We found a classroom setup for the school year. It's a series, classroom management, best and worst purchases for my classroom, things that we talk about, things like that. Those are components that we'd like to talk about with our students. So just a variety there for them. And so that's what's going to happen in that main breakout room today.
Shannon, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
We spoke about possibly creating some video footage of some of the TPP leads that have current teaching and or administrative credentials, because we thought that would be relevant. Would those videos end up sitting here as well, or do you think that those would end up somewhere else?
So I don't know that we'll have those videos completed before we add this to the Commons. We will work on those, and then as we make updates to this course, I will republish it to the Commons with the updated dates and information.
Perfect. Thank you, Shannon.
So we will be creating some of those videos throughout the semester and then building those. And we can also add those, Renee, to our CCC-TPP website.
Absolutely. Also, if anybody has any specific topics, like if there's topics where you're not finding good video opportunities for them, let us know and then we can create them. Plus, also, just so people know, we're not having like a formal group that's going to be videotaping us. It's nothing like that. It might be like us on Zoom and we videotape it, but we want to make sure we get the information out.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. We went through ed tech and apps that we can utilize within Canvas. So we've gone through, Megan and I have put some in there. We did not add Pear Deck yet, so we will get that in there today. It was nice to get that view today from Michael for sure. And then I mentioned, and I've gotten a few emails from people since our last meeting about open educational resources. So this Introduction to Education course is a PDF kind of booklet that I created with my OER librarian. It is bare bones. It was what we first could find for OER a couple of years ago. recently Foundations of Education came out, and that's another OER resource. It's through Lumen Learning, so some of it you can access, and then some of it, they originally were supposed to be fully openly accessible and free, and they've shrunk down a little bit. They're not so much that way. Some of it you have to pay for, but for the actual content, it's there and free for you. So those are there for you as well. And then everything that we're creating and working on, again, I'm doing my best to make sure that I meet the requirements for accessibility and properly attributing everything within the courses. So again, here's the 45-hour observation. And then what we're going to do today is hopefully build that up tremendously. And then we're going to shift out some of those things and create the 10 to 15 hours. So we're not duplicating for those courses, because our students tend to take both courses. So that way they don't see the same videos or the same lessons. So within these, we're starting to add lessons. I'm trying to make sure that I give them a header, and then they are appropriately attributed within each of these areas. So they're titled there for you. So that's what we're building and working on. We're not quite finished yet, but that is our goal today, is when we break out into these sessions, for some of us, we'll be in this course, and as you're giving us the information in those breakout rooms, we'll be adding them right in and building as we go. For some of us that might not be as Canvas savvy, we do have that Word document that we're using, that Google Sheet. So you'll be able to help your presenter in that room build those resources within that area. Okay, I'm trying to see. I'm seeing different things in the chat box. I just want to make sure, is there anything I missed? So that's kind of where we're at. Let me go back to my other screen.
And people are asking if it's available and accessible in the Commons now, or if it's not launched yet.
No, I can't launch it until it's completed, because I won't be able to update it there. So I'm working on that right now.
We can also send out an email to everybody who's on the listserv to let them know once it's launched. So that way everybody, and our, of course, with our timing, we're trying to get things going before classes are in session. But, timing is a tricky thing right now. So thank you, Shannon, for all your leadership on this.
We're trying to make it happen as quickly as possible here. So again, navigating issues and components, Rosemary has done a great job with that document and offering a lot of videos and opportunities there. Thank you so much for that, Rosemary. I'm utilizing your list now, and I haven't quite finished everything on that. I think I'm on page 2 of 4 pages. So there is quite a bit still there. So I'm trying to get those in, and she went in, I think it was Rosemary, someone went in and put it actually in a table. It's very organized and structured now and easy to click on those video links. So thank you, Rosemary, and we'll continue to build that as we go. Is there anything else, Megan, you need me to add there?
I'd like to just share that I have put in the chat the Google form where we're requesting for you to submit things. So in our breakout rooms in just a few minutes, we can start this process, but you can also save that form link so that you later this week, next week, can be adding things if you want to have it considered for the first publication of this project. And like Shannon shared, we will be updating it later on. We want to get the initial one out there so everyone has something in about a week or 2 to start their classes with, and then we can continue to make it even better. And remember that we're still waiting on some more formal information from the CSU about the CID Ed 200 course and how we need a credentialed teacher to be what they're focused on. So we're going to get more guidance, but at this time it seems from some Cal States to be pretty flexible. So long story short, we're waiting for all of us to contribute some really great ideas today and in the next week. So we're excited.
Thank you, yes. Okay. Is this Kathleen?
This is me, if you're
thank
ready.
you. Yes, thank you, Rosemary.
Thanks. And Shannon, I just sent you a link again because I've been tweaking those so that they were easier to use, hopefully. And so I'm not sure which ones you've already done or not, but that's looking awesome. That's going to be so great for our students to have that as a resource. Hi all, I'm Rosemary. I'm at Cuesta College and at Cal Poly here in San Luis Obispo. And I just wanted to share with you a resource that I have been poring over pretty much since these webinars started coming out. And the Center for Urban Education at USC has put out a series of 6 webinars that are, for me, have been priceless. I have literally been, between this and Dr. J. Luke Wood and all of his presentations, I've literally been watching a webinar and then incorporating something directly into my course. And the 6 elements of equity-minded course design is one of, it's the 2nd webinar in the series. And if you have time to watch just one webinar between now and when you do the next thing in your course, please watch this one. I have now, these 6 elements are now typed up in a little sign that I keep at my computer as I'm building each module of my course. And the big issue that is discussed in this webinar, and the reason I thought it had a place in our conversation today, is it's a way of building community in our online workspace. I feel that that's the thing I'm giving up the most when in moving online, and in particular, I chose to go asynchronous because of our student population and the frustrations many of them faced going into a synchronous space. So these 6 elements, I'm not going to go deep on them. I've included the link to the webinar right here on the slide for you. And this is the work of Jennifer Ortiz, who is at LA Trade Tech. And I was completely inspired by watching her video and learning about how she creates community in her asynchronous courses. And these are 6 elements that have come from the work of the Center for Urban Education. And as literally as you build each page and activity in your course for your teachers, to include these considerations. And I feel like when my students come into my course, I'm trying to model ways that they can teach their own students later on. And so bringing this element of community front and center and talking about it on purpose and intentionally is really helpful. So welcoming students in, I am going to burst my own imposter syndrome this weekend and start taping my videos. I am not a video queen. I've been in Zoom for 2.5 years as a student, but I do not like making videos. So over the weekend, I'll be making my videos to email out to my students that will be starting with me. Anything that we can do to make us real humans in this virtual space is so important, and even more so for our TK-12 kids. Demystifying, incorporating little how-to videos. Again, I have to get over myself and just do that. How do you navigate the course? Many of our students are not familiar with the LMS. They might be great gamers, but they don't intentionally sign on, or they haven't really maximized their use of technology. So explaining how things work, deconstructing, really making sure that we're breaking our assignments down into small pieces. And then again, you're modeling that for your teacher students for how to present a hard concept to young people. I think one of the things my Education 200 students are expressing frequently is, what happens when I don't know all the information I have to teach? As a teacher, I said, well, you tell them you're gonna go look it up with them. But they have this fear of not knowing all the answers. And so showing them that you can take a big idea and break it down. Validating, this is where critical race theory comes in, and culturally sustaining pedagogy, where we are inviting in the lived experiences of our students as a valid source of knowledge. So if you want to know why our students of color, well, I bet, I'm a white cisgender woman, and my observation has been that I believe a lot of our students of color check out because they're sick and tired of reading about how helpless and how victimized they are throughout our history. So why don't we invite in the stories of the real humans that are in our classroom and create our curriculum around that? Representing, so something, I have like a page check when I create a page in Canvas, and I make sure that the images that are in my assignments, because I have to put a picture on every page, that there's a representation of a diverse group of men, of gender, race, ability, in the people that I'm putting in front of my students as teachers, so they can find themselves somewhere in the course. And then creating a partnership. This is probably the coolest thing ever. So I hope it works. So Jennifer has a weekly optional study hall with her students. That's just, she pulls the class, finds out when the good time is for them to meet up, and then she has a playlist going, and she just opens the Zoom room up, right? And so it's like a coffee house time. And she said very rapidly she gets kicked out of the DJ job, and she lets students make the playlist, which certainly for me, because I am so old, I don't know what they're listening to right now. So it's just wide open. I figure I'm just going to do my own writing and research. If no one shows up, I'll have good music to work to. And then if students come and they want to work, you know, on their own, we can put them in little breakout rooms. I'm telling them they can bring any work from any course. And that's, again, that's a community builder. But inviting our students to co-create the curriculum. I was beneficiary of that when we went, when we had the shutdown. I was in a course in my educational leadership program that was on the leadership in the digital age. And our professor allowed us to figure out what our case study was going to be about and the format that it would take. And I looked at the rapid transition to online learning and the barriers to success. So not letting, but inviting students to co-create, do their project. Here's what my midterm's going to be this semester, because there's no way for me to personally look into every possible virtual format that the different schools are using. And I need to teach my students about online classrooms, right? I don't know what they all are. So I'm going to ask them to reflect on their personal experience during the shutdown, and then go find out how to create a classroom online, and then report back to us using Flipgrid as a presentation tool. So that, I mean, that's just probably too long of me talking, but please watch this webinar. We're actually building an entire PD workshop around it for our opening days at Cuesta, because it is so simple. It's a simple list, but it can have a massive impact. So that's my little plug. So that's all I have to say about that one. And then if we could have the next slide. And this was just like what, just to expand on what Shannon was talking about, and Renee also, about interviews with the classroom teachers. And so in this group, obviously, many of us have had our time in classrooms with young people. And so doing just little interviews and posting them up. And I was thinking they were like little mini documentaries. We could even maybe have a little fun with the titles and stuff. But knowing what our students are supposed to be getting from a cooperating teacher, in our situation at Cuesta, we will not be bugging our local teachers to have to deal with an observer. And so to get them to have the opportunity to talk with us out of this group, or to get those kinds of answers to what are some of the different things I can do with an education degree. What is it like to set up a classroom the first week of school? How do we set up virtual classrooms? So just all those things that we know they would be having conversations if they were in a classroom. So that's, yeah, I think it would be really great if we had a coordinator who could like make that happen in a professional looking way, because it's not me.
One of the things I'm worried about is I'm following the Distance Learning Educators Facebook site. I'm on it every day because of everything that's happening on there. But one of the things I'm a little worried about is I'm worried that if with certain assignments we may give in fall, certain virtual assignments, I'm worried that students might end up going through it like down a rabbit hole. So like, I'm just gonna like throw like caution to the wind to everybody. Like for instance, if you decide to have your students set up a Bitmoji classroom,
oh God.
you don't want them taking 200 hours on a Bitmoji classroom and then not getting their other assignments done in their other courses.
Right.
And so I think in education, we have to see what's tempting. And then we say, if this is the assignment you're doing, it should take you about this long. If you're doing a Bitmoji classroom and you're into hour 5, you need to come and meet with me, because we want you to be, we want to model for our students setting healthy parameters. And we want to, like, I think that's really important in the virtual world. I think that's part of the humanizing of the virtual world, is to say things like, I don't want you to email me on the weekend. On the weekend, you need to be doing your weekend stuff. And trying to set those parameters and model that for our students. Don't get me wrong, I'm very tempted to write back to emails at 3 in the morning, and some of you know I do. But for my students, I stopped doing that, because that to me was setting a tone that I'm accessible 24 hours, which is not healthy for me and my family, but it's also setting the tone for them professionally that's expected of them. And we don't want to do that. So no, let's all vow right now that none of us will have 2-hour Bitmoji assignments in fall, okay? I just think we need to be aware of those rabbit holes and alert our students to them preventatively.
Renee.
Yeah, I do put that. I do generally incorporate certain expectations, and there would definitely be a warning in there. And I haven't quite figured out how they'll explore an actual classroom because of all the permissions and privacies. So that part hasn't been fully worked out, but I think that it will be impossible for them to not find these Bitmoji classrooms out there, but that will be anticipated in the directions. And if they choose to go play with them, great, but to kind of stick to researching what are some of the different platforms and stuff. Because what my thought was, it's my obligation to help them be understanding how we teach online, but I have no capacity to find out what all those ways are right now, because they may change by the time I finish doing the research. So yeah.
I have my students do that in groups. I did this last spring because of this situation, and I gave them all a concept, and then I had them go out and research and create, and then develop presentations. So some of them finalized correctly, and then I have them go through, and they have to make them accessible, and they have to attribute everything that they include. So it's OER when it's done, so I can reuse it as a teaching source later. So those are things that we'll be working on again this fall, and so that's a great idea, Rosemary, to continue those ideas, and then it creates that flow and that structure without falling down those rabbit holes.
Right.
So.
And I think that I'd add that this is something great for the main breakout room to talk about all these other things that are not necessarily part of the fieldwork videos, but that they're maybe faculty resources or project ideas. It's about time we can go to the next slide for our breakout. We may not have a full half hour, but we're going to be going into those rooms in a second. So Shannon has placed you in a room. Shannon, do they all have the invitation that they're not clicked yet?
I'm getting there. So what I'll do is I'll open it now, and then I'll assign who's not assigned yet.
So just to be clear, if you just joined us or joined in after we figured out how to do this, you're going to go to your picture. There's 3 dots next to the mute that will appear when you click on or hover over your own face. And you're going to go to rename, and you're going to either put TK3, 4 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, or the main room. And in the main room, we're covering everything that's not directly related to a grade level specific video for fieldwork observation. So I think we're going to probably do 20 minutes in the breakout in order for us to regroup and do some announcements and closing.
I love how technology is so stinking cool. Christina already took a screenshot of a Bitmoji classroom to the chat so then everybody could see it. So this is awesome. Thanks, you guys.
And I'll finish assigning you now. Some of you don't have one next to your name, so if you don't, I'm leaving you in the main room.
Shannon, as the lead in the breakout, once you're gone, will I have the ability to screen share?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh. I know, and then I just left. Poor Kathleen by herself. Okay. So I'm going to leave that group with you.
Okay.
I've stopped sharing, and I will be back.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm hoping that I'm sharing the Canvas Commons with you. Did it work? You're seeing an education workgroup module that is there?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes,
Thank you. So long story short, if you came in a little later, the main breakout room, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to add you to other rooms and manage the chat really effectively while going over this. So if you're in here, you can directly message Shannon and she can hopefully hop you out. Sharon, I see you're chatting, but you're muted. Did you want to go somewhere else? Oh, you're muted, but I think you were talking.
I'm talking to the dog because she.
Okay, I just want to make sure I saw that.
Me. Okay.
So I'm one of the people today, along with Rosemary, who already talked about equity and access. We are going to kind of talk about what do you think we need in this section. So you can see the headings are here, and Shannon briefly went over them earlier. What do you think we're missing? This is just the first prototype, remember. So we're going to be adding and making it better later.
Okay, can I talk?
Yes, let's start with like, what do you see here? Do you understand it? What's missing? And then we can try to add to it.
Okay, can I talk?
Sharon, yeah.
Okay. I've been using Canvas and I'm asynchronous, so the other stuff just made me jealous because I used to be a regular teacher, you know, and I could do that stuff. But anyway, what I see here, a lot of it's really fabulous. So, I mean, for me, like the videos, it sounds like a great idea, but I'm just asking, those that are going up, are they going to have closed caption or subtitles?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't use them without it. And
right.
I mean, I do it and I have all these excuses, but you know, you lose sleep. And the other thing, okay, everyone has different classes that require field. So if it's that one unit, you know, that
yes,
Long Beach, it's 10 hours and this and that. And so at Coastline, we make sure they don't double dip, meaning, oh, I did the same hour here.
Yes.
It's a full-time job, you know, but we don't want that. We can't let them do that because as I say, we've always been online. And so we're always have to be better to make sure, because that's the first thing, you know, that it's a suspicion. Oh, they really only did 10 hours and I did it for 4 classes. Okay, so the question is, let's say we have this stuff here. Do we want, I mean, we have to monitor that they only use it. That means coordination with the people, the other people. So we can't open Canvas thing for students because they will, I assure you, if there's a movie, they will use it for 3 classes that are going on. So we need a system for this because, you know, it's not legitimate to have them double dip on the movie.
Yes. So I'll go over some basics of what we started to do to address that. Since this is built by us, the people, and it's like crowdsourced and using a lot of the great videos Rosemary did and then adding even more because that's what these meetings have led. You know, what do you need? MOUs, handbooks, movie list. Okay, we'll add those too. This is going to be something you can customize. So imagine that this is published already in the Canvas Commons. You can import it into your class. You're probably going to delete this or save this part somewhere else because you don't want your students seeing another college's MOU, right? So that's just for you to access it. And then you're going to probably tweak this list. So if it's my Education 20 class, my 45-hour class, I'm going to just keep this portion. I'm going to delete the rest. We later are going to hand pluck different videos that we've already vetted and made accessible. So Shannon showed that everything put on here is OER and accessible because she's doing the way the small group is inputting this behind the scenes is we're taking the video link, we're making sure it's a good video, we're adding the ADA kind of stuff to it. And then later we're going to pull out some to be exclusive to the 10 and 15-hour class so that they're not double dipping. Now it's up to each professor, each program, if they want to even use this resource. If they do, we're going to try to pull out for the 10-hour class so the lists are different. For me, I don't know if my Education 200 CID course is going to let us watch movies. But hey, I'm going to love that there's a movie list available for me because if I ever make it an assignment, extra credit, etc., then I'm able to have a crowdsourced list. Does that make sense? So it's up to us. I see in the chat about plagiarism. I'm not sure, Veronica, you mean that could be a great video to add. And also I saw information about professional online behavior. That would absolutely be a great addition to be more of a category that we can put on the header right now. So let's have a discussion on what other headings do you think would make sense here, knowing that we're going to be able to delete this once it goes into our course, and maybe just behind the scenes, it's a great holding spot to house all these behind the scenes teacher resources.
I have one question, and I didn't click on these things. So let's say you have TK kindergarten, second grade. Do you mean, I mean, is there assumption that our students are working with those students, so there are lessons that they can do with the students? Because I mean, what I've found, I mean, this all started out, they used to do tutoring, but usually it's directed, and this is where the piece comes in, that we have supervision by a teacher, that in fact the teacher gives them the lessons, and that we don't take it upon ourselves to say, oh, you're in kindergarten, I have a zippy lesson.
Oh, I see. This is more in particular to the COVID response of we don't get to place our students in a school site. So say that I'm teaching this.
Let's say that the regular classroom teacher, they're already assigned to a school. So they're assigned, and so the teachers, I want you to do some, and in other words, anything that they do, this is how I heard it in the spring, and I've been following that. So if I'm wrong, I better understand this. In other words, these lessons are great, and I haven't seen them, and I can suggest it, but all lessons in contact with students are at the direction of a credentialed teacher. And so the teacher says to them, okay, I want you to help this group of people in a room with Zoom with borrowing and math. In other words, I mean, is that where we're going with this?
This list is simply to replace observation of a classroom teacher, if allowed. So we're not going to tell each faculty member what to do, but we're trying to make an easy to navigate database you can put right in your Canvas course. So I might say, watch at least 3 primary elementary videos and 3 upper, and then 3 teacher professional ones.
Oh, so you know what? I thought that you meant
these are to replace the 45 hours. And for your information, what Cal State Long Beach, for example, shared with me is that the time watching the video and reflecting both count for the 45 hours. So my understanding is that would meet the requirement for the CID course. I personally am not yet clear if Cal State Long Beach would accept a movie. So I may not choose to use a movie for my class assignment. I see in the chat that when is this going to be available? That's up to us. When are we going to have enough in each section to make this publishable? So our goal right now is to add some headers, since we don't have a full half hour, of what you want to see. And then each of us can make it our own personal homework assignment to use the Google form shared earlier, and I'll share it again soon, so that you can actually link and describe what else you'd like to add. Because not all of us came with something handy today, but we might have 2 or 3 or 4 excellent contributions. We don't want a dumping ground of videos. We want high quality videos of credentialed teachers, for example, to meet the CID requirement. Well, so I'm going to show you how behind the scenes we can just start changing this. So if I want to add a text header, because it was suggested that we have professionalism, and I can change this title later. Right, I can have this as, oh, I made it a big heading. I can clean it up later. We can then have other things to follow that relate to that are added, so that when the team behind the scenes adds it, they know to go in that section. So that's a great heading. I did it wrong because I can't think clearly. What else do you think we might want to add? I love seeing that there's sample assignments and rubrics. So that kind of goes along with the virtual reflection assignments, I think. Is that what you were thinking? And mandated reporting, I really like that. That goes along with how someone said the child internet safety document should be added. My college has a mandatory reporter video that students do as a training through HR. Do your students do that too, or is there like a document you're referring to? I think that's to Robert. I am curious if there's something specific you're wanting to see. Regina, did you want to share your field hours idea? Oh, I'm sorry, there's nothing in here, so I should go back. Thanks, Robert. I see that you're going to look, and you can use the Google form to add it.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Yes, hey there, how you doing? I was just, I've been thinking about this since the last conversation we had, the last session, and talking to some CDE administrators and just kind of slinging these ideas around and thinking about a way that not just teachers, but even social workers could be to get their hours in, being able to see these teachers partner up with other teachers that are already in the classroom virtually, and being able to jump into those breakout sessions to get not just anecdotals, but also to facilitate small group work activities with those kids, and then be able to write their summary of their report of what they got. And then they would have already probably had a little background on these kids as far as maybe a digital cume file for kids that they need to be able to customize lessons for when they get further along in their hours of instruction, that they need to be able to show proof that they are able to get some contact with the students themselves. So I was just thinking, okay, I'm doing a Zoom class or I'm in Google Classroom. I've invited my guest teacher who's getting her hours in, and she's basically shadowing me for a large portion of the instruction that I'm giving. And now we're getting into breakout sessions, and this teacher that's in the field is physically in the breakout session after already watching how these lessons have already been produced. And now they're able to get some of that shadow work in addition to being able to facilitate those small group breakouts. And so then that would help with assessments, that would help with anecdotals, that would help with the teachers also getting their fieldwork experience, and it would also help build their portfolio, because I think that at the end of the day, what we're finding from the research that I've been doing for the past 3 years on trauma-informed education is that our teachers don't have enough time as field workers to really be solid, because they haven't built up enough skill set. And so I'm discovering that as well with the universities that I've been interviewing some of the professors, is that they didn't even recognize teacher training as skills. They just saw it as, we're just teaching teachers how to become teachers, but not a transferable skill. And how do you hone in on that? It takes more than 8 to 12 weeks of doing field work. It really takes up to 2 years to see teachers become successful and not fall out of their career after they've gotten credentialed. And now they're not making 3 to 5 years because they didn't have enough confidence in their exposure, because they didn't get enough shadow work and they didn't get enough hands-on practicum to address all the type of kids that are going to show up, whether they're special needs or they're high needs, or just the average kid that is precocious and that really wants to learn, and how to partner those kids up into group sessions so they can know the range of ability. So you're not putting all the low-end kids with the low-end kids and they're not making any progress. So I just wanted to say that I gave that a lot of thought, and I've been designing things with regards to assessments and how to do those assessments accurately and adequately.
I like that. Are you seeing something in addition to like a section for assessments? And by the way, someone mentioned special ed, and we had decided to have those in the grade level sections.
Yeah, I'm one of the special ed backgrounds of 20 years. And so I got preschool to high school, and my middle school to high school is my love jam. And so I feel like I have a lot to bring. It's just, how do you want this to be packaged so that these teachers are getting it? But more importantly, how are we getting these teachers into these Zoom, Google Classrooms to have more exposure? Because I think that watching the videos are cute and they're fun, but you need to really make them really specific. So for instance, while I was doing my master's program, I'm working on my PhD right now. While I was in my master's, we had to really write some huge papers based on research in addition to watching these videos. And it was really, really reflective, like the machinist, for instance. And understanding the machinist and what does that look like when you have a student who's walking in the classroom, or if they're getting something like mental health first aid, and how does that look in the classroom when you're teaching kids who are having deficits and social emotional issues, and they can't be present in their bodies because they're distracted by all the things that are going on. I could talk forever.
Yeah, I can hear so many good ideas, and I want to show everyone where I see them fitting of where it is now, so that you and everyone can help us think about what categories to add. So I want to make sure we can group think the categories, and then you can chime in for more. I'm trying to manage a lot of the chat. I'm sorry if I missed you. I have 2 things to share now. So a lot of people are mentioning professional development is what they've heard from their CSU of what can count. And Janice pointed out very importantly that we are waiting for the CSU to give us the system-wide guidance if they're going to. So at our Friday, Fieldwork Friday, you're going to see that Dr. Marquita Gruner-Shire is going to be with us, and at the ACTEP meeting, we saved the date for, we're going to have a panel of some CSU faculty and administrators talk about what they do. It's very important that we make sure that we clarify and have any disclaimers on here, because not everyone has the CID course, which needs the credentialed teacher. So that's why we have some other options like the movie list. But we want to make sure everyone's very well informed of what's legal and what counts. So I've saw in there the
Megan, can I interject? This is Janice
Please.
again. Yeah, I think that's so important, and you're right. We're going to be using this resource for lots of our classes, which is fantastic. But we have to be very careful about what we post that's legal for the CID at 200 class, so that, and then my suggestion was before we actually post, we need to make sure that we have the system-wide guidance from CSU, so that our faculty are not just seeing this is a resource that then they think folks that have not been on these meetings and they get referred to this, they'll say, oh, look, I can do this and I can do that.
Right.
And it may not be eligible for the Ed 200 class. So I just want us to be real careful before I've been seeing things that said this is going up in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Marquita, I used to be on the commission. Marquita's going to be at the commission meeting. She's going to be talking to us through this group on Friday of the commission meeting. She will not have had a chance to synthesize it with her whole system yet. And so I think that she might be able to give us an idea about what happened, but there won't be any system guidelines at that point, I don't believe.
Right.
I think she's going to have to synthesize it to her system, so it probably won't be until another week or so after that.
I'm with you on that. And right now I'll show you a few things, including where we're going to try to have a disclaimer about that issue, because it's the most important issue in my mind as well. So I really appreciate Janice making sure that it's clear. Here is a place that we've started putting PD, like some of us in the chat and others have talked about. The PD aspect is okay to date, or at least it was in the spring, from some of our CSU partners. So what we've done here is we've linked to the Teach LA virtual workshops and other types of PD meetings that students can go to. So I would like to invite you to add a PD from your region or your district that could be shared with all of our students. And you can add it in our Google form and we can vet it and link it here. So here are some of the things Shannon shared earlier. You might not have caught it, but there's some general teacher videos, teacher interview, Q&A, how they set up their classroom. So those types of things are included in the alternative fieldwork section. But if we go back to the modules, you can see that the things for the faculty use are kind of behind the scenes. So those hours logs, and some of you said, what is the quality activity? Regina pointed out so well that we want to make sure that they're doing really good things with these videos that they're watching. So we've called that the virtual reflection assignment. We can change that title. It's just a place saver, but you can see that we're in need of things to add there. So I would encourage Regina and others to share sample activities and assignments related to the videos, and we can change the heading as we decide, you know, this doesn't suit it. But for right now, I want you to see that virtual reflection assignments are supposed to be kept here in the teacher section. So you would delete that out of the students page when you import this, and you would have downloaded it for your own use beforehand. And then you can get the crowdsourced assignment samples. So special ed is a huge point. I made the note earlier that we're trying to include special ed and have subcategories within the different grade levels. So if the special education video is upper grades, etc., you would pop it in that discipline or that area, or in the other category. And that way our students aren't clicking on special ed or not clicking on special ed. It's infused together with gen ed so that we can make sure that they're seeing it. And in addition, we would want to maybe consider, as the instructor of these classes, how to tell students how many hours of different levels to watch. If our course only goes up to grade 6, we tell them, and we delete out of there the middle school ones, for example, or we use it for our own use in class if we want to show them high school. Does that make sense? Now on the home page, kind of going back to what Janice shared about needing to make sure people understand the CSU course has to articulate and has certain, you know, criteria that we're waiting on. If this does happen to go out and things are fluid and change, we have a disclaimer that it's going to be updated as the CSU and CTC makes changes in their virtual learning policy. So you can see that we tried to make a very simple homepage and be very clear that this is made by volunteers and that it was created in the summer as an emergency response, and that we're going to be changing it. And so you will see new iterations get published. Everyone's going to get an email once this goes live. But the important thing to know, and let me see if I can change my screen. And do you now see the Google form that's pinkish red?
No, but Megan, before you go there, can I say something? This
Yes.
is just a little point that always bothers me, is there are 3 types of resources here. And it says, the asterisk says, the content in this course has been created by blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And it makes that statement, but which one of those boxes is that referring to? So you need to put the asterisk in the graphic, I think, under 45-hour.
Oh, that's a good point. It may also apply to education with the 10-hour requirement as well, as Cal State Long Beach has that course offering, for example, and I'm not sure of others. I like that I see in the chat the idea of co-teaching. I don't want to miss that. TK, yeah, I think these are great points. We're going to have this chat downloaded. We're going to go back. So if you have any thoughts, pop it in the chat or chime in. I like Janice's point about changing the image. That's why we're here. We're getting so many great insights. Let's go back to the headings and see if there's something else you would like to make a comment of, because I'm sure they're going to pull us out of this breakout room very soon. So here's our category. We've added professionalism. I have a note about mandated reporter, child internet safety, professional behavior, special ed and IEPs, doing assessments, and co-teaching. Ooh, equity. Yes, I think that would be very important. So would you see that as equity and access? How would you like to? Oh, I like that, Rosemary. I saw your message. Go ahead and chime in. I don't want to
it could be
talk over anyone.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or you know, integrating racial equity and social justice in the classroom. I mean, it depends on what we put in there.
Right.
It's always, you can always change it.
Trauma informed.
Yeah, because people can, once you bring this, you know, once you copy this course, you can tweak the headers to make
absolutely
to make the vocabulary more in line with what your campus and your community feels comfortable with.
Good point. This is definitely just our best effort to date. We want it to change and evolve as we get new information and we realize that, you know, we need more, especially if this continues into the spring. I like, Robert, your conversations.
One thing I'm wondering, Megan, so I think you said we have the Google form because we kind of need like a holding place for all the new great stuff that's coming. And so if we continue to have this core course in the Commons and it's being updated, I'm wondering about like a good process for updating. You know, if I'm over here at Quest and I start the year and I have all the great stuff that's there, but then a month later, I know people have added, I wonder if there's a way we could indicate either with a date tag or something. So when I go back in there, I know what's new since the last time.
I believe that it'll be renamed and it might be the version 1, version 2, or something to that effect. It won't just be deleted and replaced, if I understand correctly, the way it's going to look in the Commons.
Yeah, okay. So will it, okay. I'm just trying to think how to not just recopy over and over that, like just to get the new stuff. I don't know. I'm not that sophisticated in my Canvas use.
I'm not either. I think we're all learning as we go. What I would imagine myself doing is looking at the new edition and cutting and pasting things and personally just adding it by hand.
Yeah, just importing those assignments, not the whole course.
Or just copy paste the link because you don't have to import it to access it.
Okay.
Hi, Megan. I'm sending everyone back.
All right.
So
I don't know if we'll have a lot of time to do a big debrief from each group, but maybe each lead can share a brief update.
sounds good. Did you create a lot more components?
I wasn't able to do them live, but I was able to write them down. So we are in a good spot.
We're in the same boat. I couldn't either.
There's so much good information, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be more coming soon.
I actually was able, it was just me and Letty. No one likes middle school, I tell you.
Oh.
So her and I worked on some awesome stuff. She's amazing. And she shared some documents that she's already created. And so she's allowed me to access those. I'm going to go ahead and attribute her within those and then add them to our Google CCC-TPP thing that we have going on. And then I'll import those into that course as well. She created an awesome observation form that includes virtual teaching like standards. It's really cool.
Let's have, we don't have a lot of time for this meeting. We do still have some announcements. And so let's have the TK3 group share like a big highlight, and then we'll go to the next. Are they back?
Gina, do you want to share?
Our group is really searching for knowledge, it seemed. So what we did is we gathered a lot of topics that they would like videos on and support on. And we did get a couple of resources already. So we are asking for more resources, but one was Woke Kindergarten, the use of swivels, Read Like a Rock Star, and using the Eastern Connecticut videos. We took a look at what the ECE collective has already done, and we're trying to model off of that. And we wanted more resources on parent pods, special needs, dual language, reclassification, teachers of color, diversity, and best practices.
That's all?
That's it. And we would also like to share that we will be inviting this group to meet again and continue to meet so that we can engage in developing this wonderful resource for all of the ages and breaking them down into those grade levels and specifying what those needs are in each grade level and each age group. So.
And Renee, Kim brought up to the group the advocate letters that the ECE sent out, and we thought this would be an opportunity to extend those advocacy letters.
Oh.
So, because some of them, like for example, they need the swivels so they could get into classrooms for observation and all that live, then they might need funding for that. So, and more mentors or something. So we just thought it wouldn't hurt to extend to this group as well.
You know what? We are actually in the process of finalizing the white paper from the early childhood education community of practice. And so this is a perfect piece to add in there within the white paper, because we, the advocacy effort was coming at the, like the local regional level. And then at the statewide level, we had a 3 different layer advocacy effort. And the final part on that sandwich of advocacy is going to be the white paper that we send out to all the leads. And just so everybody knows, by leads, I mean of multiple systems. We've sent it to the leads of the community college system, the CSU system. We've sent it to Governor Newsom and some of his staff. We sent it to California Department of Education. We sent it to the Early Childhood Policy Council. We had very intentional advocacy reaches on this. So this is wonderful. Advocacy is always intended to be inclusive, and we will absolutely make sure our EDU community is included.
Awesome.
Thanks, Renee.
I'm seeing some comments in the chat box about different components on anti-racist teaching, systematic racism, microaggressions, and so forth. We've been pretty proactive on our campus with this, and I have been a moderator for my staff and faculty, and instructors have been getting it together, and I've been asking them questions in these components in these areas and getting their feedback. We've been recording those, and we're sharing those with our students. So,
And then
anyway,
there's also an effort right now. Some of us who are on this this meeting are involved in a task force that is working on anti-racism curriculum for teacher preparation. So that is happening across the state. There's a team of us working, and so and it's going to be rolling out in a couple different ways in terms of webinars, courses, certificates. So depending on what people want to go for, they'll be able to access it. Also, I'm representing the group, but I also just want to be blatant when I say it's an incredibly diverse group of people that are working on this. The majority are not looking like white women like me. And so I just want to be known that, I mean, I'm part of the group, but I want it to be known that it is truly a diverse group of men and women across the state that are working on this.
awesome.
And one of the things that we've talked about, and it is really the need to focus across the spectrum. And so we've actually discussed really trying to bring in that actual TK through third aspect too, and create a curriculum for that. So pretty exciting.
There's a good amount of early childhood people on the group, and so a lot of us have been doing this type of work in young classrooms for years. So it's going to be awesome once the deliverables start rolling out.
It looks like to honor everyone's time, we're going to have to not have a big share out for each room. So many good ideas happening though that we can capture it if you please add your ideas to the Google form. I saw that there was a weird random question in there that's a name, so I will go after this meeting and delete that, but for now put your favorite number in there and we'll know. And long story short, we're going to be building this shortly. We want to hopefully have CSU guidance system-wide before it's published. And it's basically up to us to continue contributing. So remember that once we add these things through the Google form, the groups are going to get them on to the Canvas Commons project and play with the headings with all these great ideas, both in the chat and in the breakout sessions. I've been taking a lot of notes, so thank you for all these great ideas. We can go to the next slide. We have a couple announcements for you. Fieldwork Fridays are our guest speaker and casual conversation days. Our August 7th, 1 p.m. Fieldwork Friday call is going to be at 1 p.m. this time with Assistant Vice Chancellor Dr. Marquita Greeno-Shire to give some general comments. In my breakout room, Janice shared that it will be kind of general, but shortly after we do hope for statewide or system-wide CSU feedback. August 21st is after some of us have already started the semester, so it's just an open forum, just a chat, check in, troubleshooting opportunity. And remember, we have the ACTEP meeting also that was shared earlier, that we will get the CSU panel with faculty and administrators. Next slide. Remember, we have our resources on our teacherprepprogram.org website. You can go to the Community of Practice tab and calendar and events to get all of these types of meeting links. And you'll also get emails for the event right from us. We just want to really make sure that we're adding to that Google form. So we thank you for adding to that in the next week so that your ideas can be included. And our last slide, you can always get in touch with us and contact us for any questions. So thank you for joining us. I think we just have a minute if you want to.
One quick thing, Megan, I hope it's okay.
Yes.
On our Fieldwork Fridays on the 21st of August at 3:30, come in your PJs, come with your drink, come whatever, come however you are, because we know that that is close to the end of the first week of school for many, or the end of the second week of school for many. And we want to have a community where we just come together, hang out, and debrief about how things are going. So for our Fieldwork Friday that's coming up on August 21st, please know that that will be the most casual of anything that we've done this far, with the intention that we want to have a safe place where people can just relax at that point of the semester.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for coming today. You can screen capture our emails if you need it, or stay on for a minute if you have a question. We will update that Google form, and that's really our tool to move forward for our Canvas Commons project. Thanks for all the great ideas and have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Megan, did you put the Google form in